Level 1, Lost Civilian. You're 26 broke, filling out a CIA application at 1 in the morning with a pen you stole from a speedway. In 18 years, you'll run the building that runs the secrets. You substitute teach geography in Dayton, Ohio. $1,900 a month. 2-for-1 men's warehouse suit. The second one still tagged. Dinner was a Skyline 3-way over the sink. You applied because a Netflix documentary you half-watched made the agency look like a way out. To your shock, they write back, which is how you wind up at a hiring fair in a Crystal City Marriott ballroom, certain you don't belong. A kid named Marcus sits down next to you. Yale ring. Father was a station chief. He holds out his empty cup and asks you to grab him a refill. He's decided you're catering. You're not. You're up for the same job. When the recruiter calls your name off the candidate list, Marcus laughs out loud. Then he nods at the pen in your hand, loud enough for the room. Keep the souvenir. Some people come all this way just for the gift shop. Then the polygraph asks about the sophomore year essay you paid a guy in your dorm $40 to write. Your pulse spikes. You tell the truth anyway. You walk out certain you just failed. 3 weeks later they call. You're in. The polygrapher flagged you, honest under pressure, the one thing a Yale ring can't fake. The 7th floor is where the director sits. And the kid who laughed at your speedway pen will stand in that room one day and spend the last of his name defending yours. You keep the pen. Level 2, Staff Operations Officer. It's 3 in the morning and a man in Amman has 90 minutes to disappear. You've never met him. You never will. He's an asset somebody else's source, and the officer running him just sent a flash cable that lands on your screen because at this hour, in this cubicle, you are the only thing standing between that man and a basement with a drain in the floor. You build the exfil, a route, a vehicle, a safe house, a timing window measured against a border guard's shift change you read about in a report nobody else bothered to open. You hit send. 40 minutes later, a single word comes back. Clear. Nobody thanks you. That's the job. Because here's what the offer letter buried under all the patriotism. You're not a spy. You're a staff operations officer. You keep spies alive from a desk in Langley, Virginia, the difference between the surgeon and the person who sterilized the instruments. And the most secret agency on earth, it turns out, runs on Folgers and fear. They built an organization that can topple a government and cannot figure out the Creamer situation. Marcus got the same title you did. He calls it the JV team. He says it over that same bad coffee, loud enough that the green badge contractors look over and decide not to laugh, because the contractors get paid double and laugh at nothing for free. You learn the building fast. Everything is an acronym. The acronyms have acronyms. And your blue badge means your staff, and his blue badge means exactly the same thing, the only fact that keeps you sane. You learn the cable formats like scripture, because a misplaced field is how a real person stops breathing in a city you'll never visit. Marcus learns slower. He's never needed to. One night his hands move quicker than his attention, and he drafts a cable that copies an asset's true name into a distribution line it should never touch. One keystroke from blowing a man's cover to 100 people who shouldn't have it. You catch it on the readback, the second set of eyes ritual everyone hates, and you fix it before it transmits. You fix it and delete the draft. He knows you saw. He looks at the screen, then at you and says, "You're good at the paperwork." You file it away, quietly. Somewhere in month 7, you stop waiting to be thanked and start waiting for proof you belong in a place built for people with the right last names. It comes from a man named Hollis. Senior operations officer, 30 years in, the kind of tired that has rearranged itself into calm. He picks up a threat assessment you wrote on your own time, off your own read of the traffic, a thing nobody asked for. He reads it standing up, not moving. Then he scrawls one word across the top and drops it back in front of you. Field? You say yes before he finishes turning around. You don't ask where. You don't ask what it costs. You've spent your whole life waiting to be picked, and you've just learned the thing nobody admits out loud: the agency picks the ones who can't help being useful when no one's watching. You sign your transfer request with the Speedway pen. It still works. For now, so do you. Level 3, Operations Officer. 4 months into your first post in Vienna, you watch a man decide to betray his country over the second bottle of wine. And you understand that you are the reason. His name is Reza. Mid-level, finance ministry. The kind of access that doesn't look like much until you map where the money actually moves. You've been having dinners with him since spring, on the agency's dime, at a place near the Nashmarkt where the schnitzel costs more than you used to make in a day of substitute teaching. You remember his daughter's name and the team she plays for. You let him talk about being passed over. about the cousin who got the promotion he earned because feeling overlooked is the door, and you have spent your entire life outside that exact door, so you know precisely how to knock. Recruitment. Sales with prison attached for everyone at the table. The farm taught you to spot a tail and shed it without looking like you're shedding it. Then a post, a cover job, a name that isn't yours. The reality is less Bond and more DoorDash. A surveillance detection route eats 3 hours before a 30-minute meeting. 3 hours mostly spent confirming the man behind you just likes the same bakery you do. Then you write it up in a contact report nobody reads until the day something goes wrong, when everybody reads it very slowly, looking for your name. Reza hands you a document at the end of a dinner like he's passing back the check. You open it in the car, 3 turns into your route, headlights off, and your stomach drops through the floorboard. It's a sanctions evasion network, names, routing numbers, a whole hidden architecture of money that isn't supposed to exist. You kick it upstairs. Headquarters lights up. 4 days later, a note comes back down with your pseudonym in it initialed by someone on the director's staff. The 7th floor knows you exist. You sit with that longer than you should, parked outside your own safe house, eating a curling OMV gas station sandwich because tradecraft is glamorous like that. The kid from Dayton in a file on the 7th floor. You don't even know which window up there is the director's. You just know they wrote your name down. Then Marcus nearly gets Reza killed. He's at the same post now because of course he is, jealous in the specific, airless way of a man who expected the world to hand him what you spent 4 months earning over schnitzel. He copies a rival officer onto traffic that carries Reza's true name. Sloppy or not, you'll never be sure. Either way, it's a breach that could roll up your asset and end his life in a basement that doesn't appear on any blueprint. You catch it. You contain it. You spend 2 days quietly walking it back, scrubbing the distribution, and you do not report him. Not out of kindness. You bank it. A favor owed by a man with a famous last name is worth more than the satisfaction of watching him fall, and some cold new part of you already knows you'll want to collect someday. Hollis hears how you handled it. He doesn't smile. He never smiles. He says, "You think like a chief." You sign Reza's first asset receipt with the Speedway pen. The same pen that filled out a form on a futon now signs for a human life. The ink doesn't know the difference. You're no longer sure you do either. Level 4, Senior Operations Officer. Hollis hands you his portfolio on a Tuesday and retires on a Friday, and just like that, other people's lives become your homework. Senior Operations Officer. You don't run your own cases anymore, you run the people who run the cases. You inherited his desk, his caseload, and a habit you didn't notice you were copying. When the room goes tense, you flip a pen over your knuckles. His was a silver cross. Yours is 49 cents and chewed at the cap. The new job's first lesson. Babysit a recruitment that isn't yours. A junior officer nervous, sweating through a first pitch in a cafe 2 blocks from where you sit with a newspaper you aren't reading. You can only watch. And when she lands it when the target says yes and doesn't even know he said it, you feel something hot and proud and uncomfortable. Which is when it hits you. You've become the guy who watches other people work and calls it leadership. More money, less doing, and a job title nobody outside the building would believe. Somehow this is the promotion. Then the career changes shape, and nobody warns you. The danger stops being a man with a gun and becomes a man with a clipboard. Budget meetings, deconfliction meetings, meetings scheduled to plan the meeting. The most lethal weapon at the Central Intelligence Agency is a PowerPoint deck, and an inspector general finding can end you faster than any foreign service. They train you for a year to resist enhanced interrogation. They do not train you for the Tuesday status sync. That's the one that breaks people. The clipboard almost wins. An operation you supervise in Bucharest begins coming apart in real time. The host service rolls up a surveillance team on the wrong night, and suddenly 4 of your officers are 1 bad minute from a holding cell and a diplomatic incident. The decision lands on you, and it lands in seconds. You abort. You burn $300,000 of set up the cars, the safe house, the months of work, and pull every one of them out clean. Headquarters second guesses you for a week. The word premature shows up in a cable, in writing, where it can follow you. You don't sleep, because if you were wrong, the chewed pen signed the order that ended your career and 4 others. Then a cable comes down from the 7th floor. 1 line. The call was correct. You exhale for the first time in 8 days. And then, because the job never lets you keep the relief, you realize the trust you just spent saving 4 lives is the only currency you have left. You sign the after action with the pen, and it strikes you that this pen used to only start things, Now it ends them too. Operations, maybe careers. A slot opens. Chief of base, a hard post, a small outstation in Urbiel. The kind of assignment that either makes a career or quietly buries one somewhere most Americans can't find on a map. Marcus wants it. He lobbies in the open, the way men do when they assume the answer is already yes. He drops his father's name in a hallway. He tells people he's the obvious choice. You let him spend a week being the obvious choice. Then you take the meeting Holly's quietly set up for you months ago, before he cleared out his desk. You get the post. Marcus finds out by memo. You're going somewhere with no backup, no buffer, and your name on every single decision. For the first time, the buck stops at a chewed 49-cent pen. Level 5, Chief of Base. Night 1 in Erbil, the generator dies at 11 and takes the air conditioning with it. And you run the most sensitive room in northern Iraq by the light of your phone. 3 officers. A building held together with duct tape and clearance levels. A threat environment that makes Langley feel like a daydream. And every decision now ends at your desk. Chief of Base. In command for the first time in your life. You expect it to feel powerful. You feel exposed. But here's the thing about a small base run by people who trust each other. It punches 10 times above its weight. You run it lean. You back your offices in front of headquarters and tear into them in private, never the other way around. And they reward you with intelligence that makes the big stations look slow and fat. The station chief above you takes the credit for your wins. You let him. Credit is currency, and you're saving up for something you can't quite name yet. Nobody tells you the cruelest part of climbing. The higher you go, the less you do the actual work. You used to recruit. Now you sign for it. Every chief misses being a case officer the way a retired athlete misses his knees, the ache and all, because the ache was proof you were still in the game. You went from running agents in the field to middle management with a flag pin, and the worst part is the flag pin is the part you're proud of. So when an inherited asset goes silent, you break your own protocol. Procedure says you send a junior. The asset is spooked, the site is hot, and a chief of base has no business near the field. You go anyway. Old reflexes the desk never quite killed. You run the route yourself, 3 full hours, sit alone in the meeting spot, and wait. He shows. What he hands you stops a planned attack on a consulate, a real one, with a date, a floor plan, and a body count that now never happens. People drive home to their families that month and never learn that your name, the one that isn't even yours, was the reason. You never tell headquarters you ran it personally. Some wins you keep. Then the deputy director comes through on a regional swing, shakes your hand in a room full of bigger fish, and tells the table your base is the model. The 7th floor stops being a story you tell yourself at 1 a.m. It's a man now. A man who looked at you and will remember your face. And then the panic lands in someone else's lap, and you watch what panic does to people who were never tested. A liaison scandal breaks a partner service caught taking money, the kind of corruption that can blow back across an entire region and burn relationships built over decades. The deputy station chief above you freezes, the way smart people do when the cost of being wrong suddenly has a face. You draft the cable that contains it. Cold, surgical, every landmine mapped and diffused in order. Your station chief sends it to Washington under his own name. But the 7th floor reads prose the way a good handler reads a tell. They know that cable wasn't his. 2 weeks later, a message arrives with your name on it. They're moving you to the flagship station in Ankara. Deputy station chief. Marcus is already there. You're about to be his boss, and he doesn't know it yet. Level 6, deputy station chief. Your first morning at the Ankara station, Marcus walks into your office, sets a pen on your desk, and says, "Welcome gift. Figured it was time you upgraded. It's a Mont Blanc. Heavy. Lacquer and gold, his initials cut into the cap. It cost more than your first car. A 1998 Civic you drove until the floor rusted through. You thank him. You keep using the 49-cent one. He notices. He always notices the small things, the only thing about him that ever genuinely impressed you. And the thing that's going to ruin him. Deputy station chief is the worst seat in any building. All the responsibility of the chief, none of the authority. You're the one who says no. No, you can't run that operation. No, that asset isn't worth the risk. No, headquarters won't fund it. The chief gets to be the hero who flies the flag at embassy dinners and drinks the good raki with the ambassador. You get to be the most hated man in a building full of professional liars. These people deceive foreign governments for a living, and even they think you're difficult. You haven't recruited anyone in 2 years. You miss it like a phantom limb. Then a walk-in changes the temperature in the whole building. A man comes in off the street and offers to sell the organization chart of a hostile intelligence service. The entire thing. Names, structures, who reports to whom, who's compromised, who's next. The kind of intelligence that makes careers overnight, and Marcus wants to grab it now. Today, before anyone upstairs can claim the credit. You can see the triumphant cable behind his eyes. You slow him down. You vet it. You pull every thread. And 3 days in, you find the seam the chart is too clean, the access too convenient, the walk-in too eager. It's a dangle, a trap built by the other service to feed you poison and map your station from the inside by what you do with their generous little gift. If Marcus had grabbed it, he'd have handed an enemy a flashlight and aimed it at your own people. You shut it down, quietly. No headlines, because the best work in this place never has any. Only 4 people ever know how close it came. A note comes from the director. Personal. 3 sentences, handwritten. You read it twice and understand you're on a list now. The kind that ends in an office on the 7th floor. You think about the recruiter, 18 years and a lifetime ago. One of you ends up on the 7th floor. You'd always assumed he meant someone like Marcus. You're starting to suspect he meant you, and that frightens you more than the dangle did. Then the chief flames out. An affair with a foreign national, mishandled, unreported, the exact security failure you'd end a junior officer's career for without blinking. He's recalled overnight, gone before the ambassador finishes his morning coffee. And the ambassador wants continuity now because a station without a chief is just a target with a flag on it. By Friday, you're acting chief. By the end of the month, confirmed. And Marcus, the man who told a recruiter you'd need a souvenir, who set a Mont Blanc on your desk to remind you what you weren't born with applies for your old deputy seat. His entire career is in your hands now. You sit with the chewed pen and the Mont Blanc side by side on the blotter, and you realize the question was never whether you'd win. It's what you'll do to him once you have. Level 7, Station Chief. The ambassador wants the source shut down by Friday. The White House wants every word that source produces. And you're the one holding the pen that decides which of them you betray. Station Chief, the senior American intelligence officer in Turkey. You look the ambassador in the eye, you look Washington in the eye, and you are the seam where those two pressures meet, the place where they tear. The source is radioactive. A man inside the host government feeding you intelligence the president reads at breakfast. State says running him will get people killed and torture relationship a generation in the making. The 7th floor says keep him. Whatever it costs, and the cost is always somebody else's. The middle is the job now. Here's what nobody warns you about the top. 70% of your day isn't the enemy. It's Washington. The most useful skill you own is the one you learned recruiting, Reza, except now you're working a congressional delegation. Managing Washington is just asset recruitment with worse food and a bigger ego across the table. The senator thinks he's running you. You let him. Same trick every time, and it costs the taxpayer a cheese plate. Then the source starts to leak. Someone is feeding pieces of him to a journalist. Just enough that the wrong people will eventually connect the dots, and connected dots get this man killed, and the leak is coming from inside your own station. You run it down the way you ran down the dangle. Quietly. Completely. The thread ends at Marcus. He's been briefing a friendly reporter to raise his own profile, building himself a legend in the press the way you once built one for an asset. He never thought it would reach the source. Men like Marcus never believe the small things reach anyone. You have him. Completely. The breach, the contacts, the dates in writing. One cable in his career is ash, and after 18 years the souvenir line, the JV team, the Mont Blanc, you have earned the right to send it. Every part of you that's still 26 wants to. You don't. You give him a quiet transfer and a clean record. You bury the leak without burying the man. He comes to your office to find out why, braced for the knife, and you tell him the only fully true thing you've ever said to him. You were handed everything they give out for free. You never learned the one thing they can't hand you. That's not your fault. It just stopped being my problem to fix. He sits with that. For the first time in 18 years, Marcus has nothing to say. He understands finally what a sweating polygrapher saw in a broke kid from Dayton that a Yale ring could never fake. Judgment. The one thing that can't be inherited or bought. You sign his transfer with the chewed pen. The same pen that filled out a form on a futon, that signed for Reza's life, that aborted an operation and saved a consulate, and now it signs a mercy. The whole arc, 18 years of it, in one signature. You protect the source and your officers, and you don't burn Washington's trust doing it. The impossible split. Most chiefs don't survive it. The ones who do disappear upward. You're about to. A cable comes home with you on the next flight. They're bringing you into the Senior Intelligence Service, the agency's general officer tier. The 7th floor isn't a story anymore. It's an office number, and they've finally written it down next to your name. Level 8, Senior Intelligence Service Officer. There's a room where the worst calls get made, and now you sit at the head of the table, deciding which of your own people live. Senior Intelligence Service. You run an entire region from the antechamber of the 7th floor, and you don't meet assets anymore. You decide whether an asset is worth a life. An exfil that probably won't make it. A young officer's first burn notice signed by you. Your initials in the chewed pen's ink. And somewhere a person you'll never meet lives or dies by it. You give the orders Hollies once gave you, and you wonder if he's still alive to know you turned out the way he bet you would. One gray afternoon you catch yourself flipping the pen over your knuckles, and you finally understand why he did it. Never a nervous habit. It's the only thing your hands are allowed to do when the rest of you has to sit still and send people toward things you can't follow. Nobody told you the top of the agency is mostly politics, testimony preparation, congressional liaison, leak investigations aimed at your own people. They put a Starbucks in the lobby at Langley, and you need a top-secret clearance to buy a pumpkin spice latte. And somewhere a foreign analyst is genuinely trying to work out what it means that consumption spikes every fall. It means nothing. It's gourds, your tax dollars, defending the homeland one seasonal beverage at a time. You traded danger for exposure, and exposure doesn't sleep. It waits. Then one of your officers gets detained overseas, a young case officer you promoted yourself, the way Hollis once promoted you. Picked up, held, the specific kind of held that becomes a lifetime if nobody moves fast. And the safe play, the one every careful person in the room quietly recommends, is to deny her. Say she isn't ours. Let her become some other country's problem because claiming her burns chips you've banked for 30 years. You refuse. You spend everything. Every favor, every marker, every relationship built since a dinner with a man named Reza. And one of the calls is to Marcus Sr. now himself, finally in a position to matter, except he answers before you finish the ask. He returns the favor you banked 18 years ago without ever making you name it. The man who said you'd need a souvenir spends his own hard-won capital to bring your officer home. She lands on American soil on a Thursday morning. You watch the wheels touch down on a screen, in a room full of people who told you not to. You age 5 years in a single week. That night you sit alone with the pen and notice it's almost out of ink. You've signed too much with it. The smart move is to retire it, frame it, buy something that won't fail you mid-signature. You don't. You shake it, scratch it back to life against a legal pad, and keep going. Some things you don't replace, especially when they're failing. Then the director announces retirement, and your name starts moving through rooms you're not cleared to enter for executive director. Third in the entire agency, the officer who actually runs the building. The vote isn't tradecraft anymore. It's loyalty, history, who you didn't destroy on the way up, and who's still alive to remember it. In one of those rooms, someone raises the chief who buried a leak instead of an officer years ago who chose the station over a grudge when no one would have blamed him for the knife. Marcus is in that room. He vouches for you. The man who mocked your pen at a hiring fair spends the last of his standing to push your name over the top. You don't hear about it for months. When you finally do, you sit with the near-empty pen for a long, quiet time. The recruiter said one of you ends up on the 7th floor. He never said which one would carry the other one there. Level 9, retired executive director. They give you the office on the 7th floor, and it's the exact one the recruiter pointed at 18 years ago, and you stand in the doorway and feel almost nothing. Executive director. Third in the agency. The officer who runs the building day to day, who signs the things that move other countries before they finish their coffee. The broke kid from Dayton with the Speedway pen made it all the way to the room he was promised. And it's just a room. Because here's the last joke, the one nobody tells you on the way up. The top job is signatures, budgets, personnel boards, a calendar somebody else owns and you merely attend. The kid who turned a finance officer over a second bottle of wine now signs the funding that pays for other people's dinners with other people's raisas. You haven't run a route in a decade. You miss it the 3 boring hours. The clean thrill of being someone else for an afternoon the way you miss the people you ran it for. Reza died of something ordinary a few years back. Heart in his sleep, an old man in a country that never knew what he'd done. You sent flowers under a name that wasn't yours. The last operational thing you ever did for him and the one you're proudest of. The most secret organization on Earth seen from the very top is fluorescent light, mandatory training modules, and the same Folgers from your first terrified week. They trust you with the lives of officers on 4 continents. They will not trust you to pick your own hotel on a domestic trip that's a GS9 named Brenda. And Brenda says you're staying at the Courtyard by Marriott, and that is the one fight in this building you will never win. You're the third most powerful person in American intelligence. You still can't get a decent parking spot. On your last day, they bring you the retirement paperwork, and you sit down to sign it with the 49-cent pen, the one Marcus laughed at. The one that signed for Rez's life, aborted an operation, saved a consulate, granted a mercy, and brought an officer home. It dies mid-signature, completely finally out of ink. 18 years to the week. You sit there with half your name on the page and the dead pen in your hand. Marcus retiring the same year, because the two of you were somehow always the same year, reaches across the table and hands you his Mont Blanc, the heavy one. His initials still on the cap. You finish your name with it. And you both laugh quietly in an empty conference room, and it's the first fully honest thing that's passed between you in 18 years. Then you walk out. You pass the lobby on the way out, and there's a fresh class of career trainees filling out forms at folding tables. Cheap pens, wrong suits, Skechers somebody's praying read as dress. One of them nervous, overpressed, eyes that don't quite believe she's allowed in the building, drops her pen and apologizes 3 times to no one. You pick it up, you hand it back, you don't say anything. Everything she needs to know, she'll learn the hard way, the way you did. Somewhere down that hall, a recruiter is about to tell a room of people in 241 suits that one of them ends up on the 7th floor. You're the old man in the parking lot now, the one who already knows how it ends. You keep walking out into an ordinary Virginia afternoon, a dead Speedway pen in your pocket you'll never throw away. It's the only honest thing you ever carried all the way up. If you like this story, share this video and subscribe for more.